Channel hit 100. We're triple digits, pal. Go us. Go team. You know? Good for us. Love that journey we're on. Um, no, and then I did change the name of the channel and a little bit of a different vibe, especially with some of the streams that we've been doing lately. I always feel a bit more like a radio station than like a music reaction channel. So this change, the W-AMC, it's a little play on a virtual radio station. So I hope to sort of become more of that vibe. I really like that direction for the channel. Have like special programs that would be like my Why Is It experimental video. That would be like a special program type thing. And then like when we have streams with the small creator content and people are putting in requests, I think we could really lean into that being like a request line on a radio station. And I want to have interviews too. I put out a video on Friday. Watch that if you're a small creator. Would love to hear from you and set up an interview if you're putting out an album. Let's talk. I'm so down to do more stuff like I did with Patchwork a couple weeks ago. So let me know your thoughts. If you think Alex's music streams was better, I will not be offended. We can change it back. But anyways, today's video. This was something we listened to on stream, and this is by far the largest project that I'm taking on for this channel yet. And speaking of the experimental video, this is something that I've been thinking a lot about since making that video, because this is one of the more well-known experimental albums to come out in the recent years, in the last decade, where we're talking about Caretaker's Everywhere at the End of Time, the 6-stage album about memory loss and dementia, is set in a conceptual experimental framing where the 6 stages of the albums came out 6 months apart. So it was a 3-year rollout for this project, an absolutely massive 6 hours worth of music that came out over those 3 years. And my goal is to listen to this album, to this entire project, as it was intended over those, listening to one stage every 6 months and finishing essentially in 3 years. I won't be touching the project again until September 9th of this year. Started on March 9th. Next stage is going to be September 9th, and we're just going to keep going. It's already been a very thought-provoking process. Just listening to the first stage, it was very ear-opening. I want to say eye-opening, but just thinking about how long this is going to take and the themes of memory and remembering are already weighing very heavy on me. So, I hope you guys like it. Like it. Give it a fat thumbs up. I think that's it. Bye. Caretaker. Yeah, Everywhere at the End of Time. So, it came out in 6 stages, and the way that they released this album was one album, like one collection of songs every 6 months, and it became this massive statement on dementia and loss of memory, old age. My understanding is the songs become more unhinged and depressing, bleak, otherworldly as the songs progress. Like when you get to stage 4, all of these songs are 20+ minute long. The song titles themselves are stories. And so my plan here, I've never listened to all of it. I've been really interested, and I figured I'll listen to it the way that God intended, the way Caretaker put these albums out. I'm going to be listening to stage 1 today, stage 2 in 6 months' time in September, and keep doing it until it's done. It's going to be a 3-year project. I know it sort of has that I don't want to set the world on fire vibe from Fallout, that like mid-century jazzy feel, and like that sort of like a dusty, it feels like a memory. The song feels like a memory. So yeah, let's dive into it. I mean, it's also just pretty good music at the start. So I mean, first of all, that song deserves the 24 million views. I think I think the big reason I want to do this project is I love the concept of this album and the abstract. If you say the thesis statement of this album, you sort of you get it, right? It's a cool thought. It's a nice thought experiment. Like this album that came out 6 months apart. It came out over a 3 year period, and it showed the decline of a mental state. It started as like a normal state of mind with like regular sort of jazz music going on, and then by the end of it, it's degraded and otherworldly. You hardly recognize it from the beginning. In that sentence, that's pretty much what the full effect of this album is. But I feel like it's going to be different really sitting down and listening to this multiple hours worth of work, um, like sitting through this entire album. You probably don't need much more than just that first track is just a burning memory to understand the vibe and the thesis statement of this part of the work. Stage one is going to be a lot of stuff like that, but I think sitting through it and actually digesting each of these songs and really sitting in the moment and enjoying what it's like to enjoy this music and hear an actual melody and noticeable discernible instrumentation, I think makes a big difference. I think it's going to make a big difference in like 6 months down the line when I listen to stage two and I want to think back to this memory. It's just going to be a memory of enjoying this music. So I think it becomes a very meta experience, and that's what I'm really looking forward to with this to see how it all comes together when you're listening to it the way that Caretaker intended it. Anyways, on to number two. This one, more than the last one, it feels like the protagonist, the main character, is the one playing the piano. It's such a sweet little melody. But I have a couple of thoughts now that we're a couple of tracks in. First of all, I like how that one repeated the same line over and over again. It really, to me, confirmed my theory that this is the protagonist. This is the main subject of the album that is playing the piano here. And I feel like they can only remember one piano line. And so that's all they play. They play that one little sweet melody and then repeat it again. And we're just here for 3 minutes and 30 seconds watching what's probably an hour of them playing that one line over and over again. I've noticed when I first started this album, the pops and surface noise, what sounded like everything was being played on an old parlor phone, that's so forward in the mix, I'm already sort of not recognizing it as much. If I really focus on, it's like looking through a dusty windshield when you're driving or something. After a while, you don't notice the windshield, you just notice the world around you. And so I'm listening to the music and not to the pops and the fuzz and all those other noises. And I think that's a really good metaphor for losing your memory, for losing your grip on things. If you're not focusing on this surface noise that's becoming louder and louder and louder, and you're just trying to reach through and listen to the music that lies underneath, you can sort of ignore that surface tension that surface noise that's growing and growing. I think I understand now how this sort of thing can sneak up on people. You can sort of go a long time in denial of what is happening around you, of the memory loss or some other problems that you have, because you're just focusing on what you care about. So many layers and levels to this so far, just off of two songs, and just knowing what's ahead, what the whole purpose of this album is. Yeah, the music is repetitive and slow and simple and definitely elevator music esque. I will not argue that this is not probably not the first choice of music I would have to throw on if somebody passed me the aux cable, but I still find myself oddly drawn to the music as it's playing because I know in 6 months' time, when I listen to the next stage of this record, or 6 months after that, when I listen to stage three, when things really get dark and depressing, my understanding is that's the direction that this goes. I want to be able to remember this music and when the music was more cheery and the melody was able to be picked out and heard. Um, so this full stage one is such a good palate cleanser and a primer for what's to come. Um, it feels like I'm trying to, just like the protagonist, I'm trying to hang on to these memories and just enjoy the moment that they're playing because right now things are good. This is nice simple music. I have to enjoy it because in 6 months or 2 years when the music is not enjoyable, I don't want to have looked back and taken these moments for granted. So it's a really unique listening experience. I'm noticing less surface noise on this one. I wonder if that means anything. Is this a clearer memory? Is this something that's easier to bring back? Oh, interesting. I liked how that one stopped sort of mid-tune. Um, like that was the only part of the memory that whoever this is had. Um, I definitely am intrigued by the varying levels of surface noise here. That's such a large part of this album. The veneer and the vintage quality that this music has because of those noises. Um, to pull it away so much for that track, really, it feels like that was significant. Why was this one such a clear song compared to Late Afternoon Drifting, which I think had so much? And now the surface noise is back tenfold. Hmm. That was a super interesting one. This was like the first song that really started to show the cracks. Um, everything up until this point has been a pretty fully formed melody and just an enjoyable song to listen to for the most part. But this one was much more um, unsure of itself. There were definitely, like I said, that surface noise was back right off the bat. Heard that, but then the melody itself was hard to pick out and kind of stumbled over itself. There were chords that were wrong. There were jumps and cuts and like slashes between movements in the song. So this one, slightly bewildered, is absolutely the correct word to use. It's a very self-aware song title. So I think it's going to become more like that, where the music becomes more unresolved, more discordant, and lacking of melody. And so it's a real life lesson here to just enjoy the music and the memories while you have them and while you can make them. But yeah, I'm realizing what I'm getting myself into here, and it's not a pleasant thought. So, anyways, let's wrap up stage number 1. Let's check out "My Heart Will Stop in Joy." Oh, hey, look at me! I'm a voiceover now. The rest of these songs, I didn't really have too much to say that I think would add to this overall video. There were songs where I let my mind wander and thought about what life was going to be like in 6 months. This music is very good as background, introspective music. It kind of feels like a little bit of like a slice of life background music at times, which I think is intentional. There are other elements where Caretaker put in a little bit of post-production, adding a little bit of reverb and sort of experimental elements to the songs. A lot that you can read into if you're focusing very heavily. Also, music that's very easy to play in the background. Overall, I would really recommend listening to this record. I think it's very peaceful. It tells a very clear story once you know the context of this music. It's sort of a peaceful tragedy in a way. But anyways, I'll let Stream Me from the past talk about my closing thoughts on the album. I have so much to think about with... Oh, man. When I started this stream, I accidentally put it on private or unlisted for the first hour or so. It wasn't until I started the stream at 10 a.m. and it wasn't until like 11:10 that I realized my mistake and put it on public. And there hasn't been a single viewer since. And I think that is a good sign of where I am right now as a channel. And one of the reasons why I wanted to do this project, as much as I'm going to watch this music change in 6 months, I'm going to change. Where am I going to be in 6 months from now? Am I going to be making these same mistakes? Am I still going to be saying every other sentence? Am I going to have other viewers in my channel piping up and making comments alongside me? There we go again. How is this music going to change? How is this protagonist's life going to change 6 months from now? It's a very large scale project and overwhelming to think about. And the end of My Heart Will Stop in Joy started opening the doors. It's a little bit of a teaser. It's a little post-credits Marvel extended universe scene where those production elements that we've been hearing all across the album, those little reverbs and echoings, were suddenly ramped up to 11, and it sounded like this song was being played in a large empty hallway, a large labyrinth to get lost in. felt like the protagonist was starting to wander down a path that they would not come back from. We'll see how everything looks in 6 months when I check out stage 2. I'm not entirely excited about. I'm very excited to see how the rest of this album pans out, and I'm very excited to hear it in the way that Caretaker presented the music, with these 6-month increments to really ruminate on the music, forget the music as well. I have thoughts and memories of the songs and how I felt listening to them, but in 6 months I'm not going to remember what the actual music sounded like, and I think that's important. So we'll see. I'll see you guys on September 9th. Mark your calendars. I'm going to try to stick to a 6-month schedule here. So yeah, that was Caretaker. Oh man, let's change it up. That's man, it's definitely an art piece, right? That is a piece of music that makes you think. And I don't think it's gonna get less thought-provoking as we move on.